How's everyone doing today? Nick here with McGaughys Suspension. And yes, another GMC 2500HD. This is a 2020, I believe. It's owned by CJ. And CJ reached out a while ago and said, hey, I want to do 17s on a 4-inch kit. We went over some specs, some ideas, and for the guys that are wanting to run 17s, that's what this video is for, is to show you 17s on our 4-inch kit. Now, some of the things that we talked about with CJ going into this project, this build for him, he again wanted 17s, but I expressed to him that the problem why you don't see a lot of 17s on these trucks is because of the payload on the tires. There's not as many tires available for 17s with the proper payload. So he did some research and he found these Falken tires, which are a 10-ply E-rated tire, and obviously that has enough to be underneath this truck, and that's what he went with. And then he ordered up the wheels from KMC, and I don't even know if these were just regular raw at first or if they were black or what he got, but he ended up taking them and having them chromed by a local chromer down in Southern California. If I can find out the information of who he used, I will leave it in the description. I will obviously, with everything else, leave all the details of measurements and specs of this build down in the description down below. So at any point, if you want to reference that for information to build your own truck, that's what these videos are for. These videos are for informative, to help you emulate the same similar look, but with your own concoction of wheel, tire, style, like trim level truck or color or any of that good stuff. So these are 37 1250s. Again, Falken 37 1250 17 10-ply E-rated tires. See where those are at right there. It says, I saw it earlier. Oh, E-rated right there. I don't know where the 10-ply went, but I read it on the tire. Oh, 10-ply right there. E-rated 10-ply. So these are the KMCs. I don't know what I think they're the grenades, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, they were chromed. Obviously chrome lug nuts and a chrome cap. And then black, gloss black ring on this setup here. So really nice setup for tire and wheel package. Now, let's get into the suspension to get over these tires and wheels. Oh, and I want to also, forgive me, these are 17x9s, and he's telling me that they are a -6 offset. So they are a little bit heavier on the offset, which poke out a little bit further than what we typically see, if you notice there. And then this truck is at 4 inches of ride height. The installation of the suspension was done at Signature Performance in Costa Mesa, California. And all they had to do, setting the truck up at 4 inches, 28 inches from center hub to fender. This is a GMC, so it's got a flat fender lip. Again, the Chevys are going to be arched. So in these measurements, from 28 inches from center hub to the fender lip on a Chevy would be 28 3/8 to dictate 4 inches of ride height because of the Chevy curvature in the fender flare. So at 4 inches, we have a pretty aggressive clearancing right there on the front lower valance and on the lower bumper area. And it is cut back on the fender felt, the inner fender well felt as well, and then the brackets are pushed forward. And then over on the back side here, you've got a fender tieback kit and obviously a Mudflap delete as well. Looks like he went with a 6-piece, so 2 up front, 4 out back to match it all. And I do want to also note that this truck is sitting with a 3/4 inch rake to it. So meaning that the truck, 28 inches front 4-inch kit, I measured from the pinch weld down to the ground, pinch weld down to the ground in the rear, and we've got 3/4 of an inch rake to it, higher in the rear than the front. It's very so slight, but it looks really good on these HDs. That to us, anywhere between 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch is level to us. And if you want to go any higher in the rear, that's fine. You can add a couple shims in the back in the leaf spring pack. The shims come in the 4-inch kit, so it's not a big deal for you to install those if you want to do those as well. And then let's look underneath there. 4-inch kit, tie rod angles, CV angles, ball joint angles, control arm angles, all those angles are nice and flat at 4 inches. And then you see over on this side here, you see that the CV shafts were all painted, and then the diff over on the passenger side was painted as well. The diff drops on our kit are exactly 4 inches of drop, as well as the new bolt position for the lower control arm is exactly 4 inches of drop, and it's exactly straight down. There is no push out on the track width, so you're not going to gain any extra track width with our kit. And that is a significant scenario because no track width gain means the tires and wheels aren't going to poke out any further. Let's go over on this side, look at it. They're not going to poke out any further because of the lift kit. And obviously, since it doesn't widen the track span, then the same width of the front wheel and tire package is going to be the same as your rear axle wheel and tire package. No spacers needed or anything like that to equalize the look of it so it doesn't look like your front ends bulge out further than the rear. CJ went with the 4-inch kit, and he still has factory upper control arms. You see in this area here, he's still got plenty of droop travel. That is droop travel right there. That's space. Let's see here, I've got about almost 3 fingers in there, and the control arm is nice and level. The ball joint still has full articulation available, nothing stretched out. And then you see our M84 series monotube shock in there. So just to clarify, because what is the significance of why I just talked about this? So in many cases, control arms, depending on how your setup is, if you got a leveling kit, you got a lift kit or whatever, a lot of other kits out on the market, other setups will have this control arm really close to this droop stop on the frame. They might even require you to cut this out. On our kit, you don't have to do that. Our kit is set up to where this is at 4 inches of ride height and your factory control arm is still being utilized. If you go to our aftermarket upper control arm, you can mate it up to our 4-inch kit as well and gain even more droop travel for better ride quality. And then we back it up with a M84 series shock that is properly valved for seat of your pants performance. What does that mean? In our eyes, seat of your pants performance is you daily driving this truck, you're towing with this truck, and you're doing mild off-road stuff. Again, these trucks are too big, too large, too heavy to be anything crazy of an off-road rig. No one's dragging these trucks across rocks, well, at least for these years, maybe the older ones. But, you know, realistically, that's not happening with these trucks. This is our non-torsion bar drop kit, which if you notice there, that bracket right there allows the torsion bar to stay in the factory position. That is the torsion bar right there. It goes all the way back through this cross member right here, torsion bar cross member, and it goes back to the adjuster keys that are right there. Those are factory keys still in place. And like I said, the torsion bar is all in the factory position still. And because our kit does not widen the track span, it does not widen the torsion bar span either. And there's no requirement to do any modifications to this torsion bar tunnel on the frame. You can look at our instructions and anyone else's instructions on the market, and you want to pay attention to that because a lot of times they're going to have you hog that hole out so then the torsion bar does not rub against the frame. And the reason being is because the track span is wider. We don't have a wider track span, so no unnecessary extra cutting on the frame or any of that stuff. Still got plenty of compression travel. And this truck is nicely set up. Nothing crazy, one part number. All it is just our 4-inch kit, factory control arms with the M84 series shock. Let's get a nice little walk around here. CJ is daily driving this truck. He also goes out to the river, he pulls his boat, tows some other stuff as well. And you can see there the stance of this truck. Like I said, it is 3/4 of an inch taller in the rear than the front. It doesn't look crazy. It's very, very simple. And that's usually what people are looking for. You can see there, it just has the block in the rear, 1 3/4 rear block with our M84 series shock out back. But again, if you are a truck owner and want the rear up higher than this, no problem. You can add 1 or 2 leaf spring shims to get the back up a little bit higher. So this is a perfect example of a truck setup with 17-inch wheels, with a little bit more extra poke, because when you go 17s, typically you're gonna have to have them out a little bit further, because the 17s have to clear the caliper and the spindle and the tie rod. And this is one that is set up to fit. You got a little extra poke there. If you're a truck owner that doesn't want poke and you want it to sit in as far as possible or just flush with the side of the fender, 17s are not going to be the direction for you. You just can't get them sucked in that far. They won't fit. And then they come in contact with some of the inner suspension, which is not a good thing. So just know, if you are considering 17s, the two things that you have to remember that are usually a hurdle is going to be your tire selection, proper load range for the tires, obviously proper load range for the wheels as well, but then you have to be acceptable to some poke like you see here on this one. So I believe there's another Chevy coming in that already has the 4-inch kit, already has some 18x9s, but he wants to go to a 17, and we're going to document that one as soon as that one is done, to give you a little bit more you know, just another option, another look. It is a white truck, but it is a Chevy on that one. It's a newer Chevy as well. So give you something else to look at. Again, let's check out those angles. Nice and flat, plenty of suspension travel. And you know, if you're looking at a suspension kit, anyone's on the market, or you already have something on your truck and you're trying to figure out how to make it ride better, the first thing that I would suggest to look at is look and see how much room is in between the control arm and the frame stop. That is a dead ringer in most cases to realize that there's no droop travel. And when there's no droop travel, that means the suspension cannot droop down, the wheel and tire package, and the suspension cannot droop down when you go over an obstacle. Like if you go over a speed bump, it like goes up and it just knocks real hard. That's because you have little to zero droop travel, and that's going to harm your ride quality. Having droop travel is going to be your friend for a better ride quality. Let alone, I do have the question that people ask, hey, can you lower this down and make it a 3-inch? No, because the same exact problem that people are facing with the droop travel, now you'll have the same problem with compression travel. And basically, as you see there, you won't have any distance in between that bracket and compression stop, which then you would be riding on your compression stops. And anytime you hit something, you'll feel that through the chassis right away. Same thing as the droop travel. If you have no droop travel, you feel it in the chassis and it just droops out real hard every time you hit a bump. It's like running too short of a shock, essentially. So just be mindful of that. If you guys have any questions about a truck like this, you want to emulate it, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to Signature Performance. That's who did the installation on this one. You can, if you want to chat about a truck setup like this, and if you notice here real quick, because a lot of people always freak out about, you know, thumbnails and then sometimes pictures. If you look right here, this angle, the truck looks like it's nose high. Still looks like it's nose high. But if you go over here, okay, now look at it. So it does look like it's nose high because the roof, or excuse me, the hood is higher than the bed rail. But again, I measured from the front fender, the pinch weld down, the rear body pinch weld down, and we've got 3/4 of an inch rake to it. So it's a little raked. So it, depending on what angle you're looking at, you're gonna get a little bit different vibe off of it. So again, if you guys have any questions, reach out to our office. We can find you a local authorized McGaughys dealer. If you want to reach out to me directly, you are more than welcome to. I can be found on the @McGaughys Instagram or on Facebook. Just send a message through there and just say, hey, Nick, I saw the video and I'm looking at these wheels and tires. And if you want a wheel and tire selection, wheel, I have a list of 18-inch wheels and 20-inch wheels that are the proper, you know, setup for these. And in our eyes, to help you set up your wheel and tire package is only going to better the results of our suspension. So we are here to help you make all that compute correctly, and so you don't have anything fighting against each other. A lot of times guys will buy a lift kit, buy a suspension part and then try to put the wheel and tire package underneath it that's too large, then they stretch out the suspension. So we want to make sure that you have the best results possible with our product. If you guys got any questions, let us know. Again, as always, thank you for all the support. Thank you for watching all the videos. Send this to a friend if they're looking for a truck with a lift kit on it. Maybe you can help inspire them as well. Until next time, see you guys on the next video.